Okay, so as the president of Accelerant Training, an authorized licensee of Sandler Training, Ted works with business owners, sales leaders, and salespeople who are looking for ways in which they can develop their skills, define their sales process, and as a result, grow their revenues and profits. Now for a new insight on a common business challenge, please welcome Ted Rykoski.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Gabe. Appreciate it. So the reason I'm talking about or bringing this up today is I speak with a lot of people, business owners, obviously sales leaders, and one of the most common challenges that is out there, and a lot of people aren't even aware of it, is a simple reason why a lot of sales are lost. So what's interesting is that when you pose that question to salespeople, sales professionals, sales leaders even, most people say that the reason a sale is not made, it comes down to money. The interesting thing is if you ask the buyers the same question as to why the sales aren't made, is that the salesperson has not presented or built up enough value in what they're selling. So it comes down to bottom line, it's all about communication. So most common is the lack of communication. So a couple questions I'll put out to the group, and I think everybody knows the answers to these, but people buy from people they like, right? I think we've all heard that before. The other statement that we've heard before is people like people who are like them. So some tactics around communication. This is just to bring up awareness of some of the tools that you can use. Mirroring. It's a great way to get people to like you or to appear to be more like them. So that's in pace of the way that you're speaking, the tone of voice, and the body language. So the more that you can mirror the person that you are in front of, you're speaking with, the more that you become like them. And without them realizing it, it's actually a subconscious. You're very much like them. They have a better tendency to like you. So got an image here of Barack Obama and David Cameron from the UK, and they did it effortlessly. The jackets slung over the shoulders, but man, they mirror each other great there. If anybody's never heard of the components of the communication, what's interesting is that when it comes down to it, words actually are only about 7% of what's expressed. So when you're speaking with somebody, when you're communicating, the words that you use only about 7% of the importance of that communication. Voice tones, tone of voice, 38%. The physiology or the body language is 55% of the impact of how you're communicating. So just a good demonstration there of how important mirroring is, especially if you're face-to-face with somebody, taking on the mannerisms that they have, leaning a specific way. Again, speaking in their pace and their tone of voice helps you mirror. Another factor here is something called the disc profile. So if you are not aware of this, there's actually it's free out there on the website, on the internet. You can go out and do a profile to get an understanding of where you are, how you communicate, and how you learn. Very, very important here. The 4 basic profiles are dominant, influence, steady, and compliant. You ask a series of questions. The assessment takes only about 7 to 10 minutes. And you have a good understanding of where you are there. And it gives you the opportunity to better mirror people that you're engaged with. So it's really a question of how do you communicate and whether or not you're recognizing differences in others and how they communicate, and whether or not you're actually adapting your style when you recognize those differences. So if it's something that you're not aware of, something that you can actually take a look at and make changes in how you're communicating to do something a little bit better. Another factor here is transactional analysis. Another common theory that's out there, but it all talks about ego state and how we communicate. Could be as a parent or an adult or in a child ego state. And it's quite interesting when you take a look at this and you see a couple of people communicate. You can really identify where they are and how they're communicating. And I'll put this best as a nurturing child or a critical parent, nurturing parent versus the child state. Very common in sales when a prospect or client is asking the salesperson for something. So for instance, Gabe, can you get me a proposal on that? And the most the most common response to that is, yep, let me work on that. So it's really the nurturing parent and a compliant child. The problem with sales is it brings in a pattern of communication by which the salesperson is quite often just bowing to the request of the person that's the prospect or the client, and really not moving the sales process forward. But again, it's all about communication. Language differences, I think this goes back to mirroring quite a bit, but generational differences, the way we speak from generation to generation, slang terms or acronyms or buzzwords. And I'll ask you to think about it. If you've ever been in front of a salesperson that is using a buzzword or an acronym, and maybe you haven't asked, you don't know, you don't want to feel like you're not the smartest person in the room. So you don't ask the question, you don't find what it is, and you move on, and you never engage with that salesperson again. It's really a dynamic of being okay and not okay. That's another way that in which a person can communicate and do better in communication by always making sure that the prospect, the client, is in an okay state. So avoiding buzzwords, avoiding acronyms, avoiding slang, all great ways to improve communication. The simplest strategy when it comes down to it is really engage, take a look at how you're communicating. Are you getting to understand the way the other person is communicating? Are you avoiding some of those tricks, some of those traps that you can fall into? Build a relationship. Stop selling features and benefits and simply ask more questions. Easiest way to help prevent yourself from making sales. Are you listening to hear, or are you listening to understand? Thanks, Gabe. Thanks, team. Any questions?
Yeah, hey, Ted, that was awesome. And I really think that the mirroring part of the communication and the pace and all that kind of stuff is critical. How do you know when you're mirroring and you're not copying so that it doesn't come across ineffectively?
So, question, Brett, that's a really good question. What I've seen most typically is that when people become aware of using this tactic as mirroring, most often they start to copy because they're focused too much on, hey, Brent is speaking a specific way, he's leaning to the left, leaning to the right. So they focus too much attention really on the other person and what they're doing, and they quite often trip up because they're not listening. Right, so there's so much attention really on the other person. I think honestly it's a matter of practice. The more that you practice, the more that you engage with other people, you see there's some masters at it that seem to just be able to speak with everybody. Those are people that have practiced a lot. They didn't get there overnight.
So yeah, I had a question. The parent-child thing that you were talking about, and I also agree that was awesome. So you're saying that the salesperson just kind of complies with what the client wants and is just doing that. How do you break out of that? How do you not do that?
That's another great question. So one of the techniques that we teach. So Sandler, what we do, it's all about. It's really three things. Unfortunately, most sales training that's delivered any place, it's usually in a workshop or even if it's over the course of a week, what it focuses on is technique. So an example of technique is, so Gabe, I'm going to be in your area on Thursday. Is 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. better for you? That's a technique.
Right.
Unfortunately, 10,000 people in Atlanta that are using it every day, and everybody hears it. So as soon as a client or prospect hears that, they walk away. They stop. They don't want to engage. They start to build up a wall. One of the things that we teach is called a pattern interrupt. And there's actually a great graphic that I just saw last week combined with the transactional analysis. But really, it's all about not doing what the other person's expecting. So if you're on the phone with a prospect and they're asking for, hey, can you send me some information? Can you send me a proposal on that? They're expecting that the answer to that is going to be, yep, I'll get it right out to you. Is email or mail better? So they're expecting that. As soon as you break that pattern, and it can be done in a number of ways, but one quick example is, Gabe, yep, be happy to send out the proposal. You know what? Actually, before I send that out, you mind if I ask you a couple questions? So what exactly are you looking for in this proposal? You can carry on that way, but it breaks that pattern where they're expecting me to be a compliant child. They're not thinking of that in terms of I'm a nurturing parent and compliant child, but I sent out a request, I asked for something, salesperson's going to give it to me. You break that pattern and it changes the communication, enables you to start asking questions and potentially take that conversation in a different path. But the pattern interrupt is the easiest way to do it, but sometimes tough to execute.
Right. And the other thing, the first thing you mentioned was that the salespeople think the reason why that they don't do it is because of money, and you're saying it's because of communication. That's basically what you said, right? Yeah.
So the answer that came, there's a survey done on sellers and buyers, and I've seen it especially with salespeople. A sale's not made, and the reason they go back to their manager, the owner of the company, whomever, the price is too high. We didn't discount enough. Our competitor was cheaper. Those types of things. And you ask the buyers, the people who are actually responsible for making a purchase decision, and it's not necessarily that the price was too high. Yeah, the price might have been high, but there was no value given at all. So they don't understand any reasons behind the price. When you start to work through the process in a right way, getting an understanding of exactly pains that a prospect has, be it an individual, if you're selling a house, what specifically that they're looking for, or if you're engaging with a company, either a purchaser or the end user, really getting an understanding of what pains they have, and then start to address those specific pains. And it's all built around a cost, right? Opportunity cost, or what the lack of having a solution to that pain is costing them. You get a great way to build a value, and it outweighs that cost. Price is never an issue.
Right, but you also said to stop selling features and benefits. So how can you offer value if you're not doing that?
I would say that, yeah, features and benefits, I'm not going to do that until I've got a good understanding of exactly who I'm working with, what is the environment that they're in. So if it's a company, Gabe, I want to ask as many questions as possible, and I'll be upfront with the person I'm working with. Hey, Gabe, we've got 60 minutes scheduled. Honestly, if we're going to take some time to go through this, what I found is that 90 minutes, really, we're going to need that amount of time. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to ask you a lot of tough questions. Some of them may be personal. Are you going to be okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is, if they feel that you're genuine and they're really looking for a solution, they're going to spend the time. And if you're putting it out front, hey, I'm going to ask them tough questions. Some of them might be personal. You've got it out there in front, and they've got the opportunity where if they don't want to share it, they don't want to invest the time. Honestly, I don't want to provide either the free consulting with the information, because features and benefits, that's really what it is.
Okay.
But if I've got an ability to understand, hey, Gabe's got pains 1, 2, and 3, I may have 10 solutions and 10 features and 10 benefits. I'm going to pick the 3 features and benefits that are going to address your specific pains.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I appreciate that, Ted. Great presentation.